Hey guys, welcome back to Cannon Talk episode 3, your weekly roundup of Arsenal news both on and off the pitch. This channel does not require you to have a season ticket to have an opinion on Arsenal Football Club. It's great to have you here. As always, you know what you need to do. You need to like, you need to make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, so make sure you get notified on all of the upcoming content. In this week's episode, we discuss the last Premier League game of the season against Southampton and a fantastic result for Arsenal women, champions of Europe no less. And we'll get into the transfer rumours. It's silly season again. The summer transfer window where every name under the sun is linked with Arsenal Football Club. So without further ado, let's get into it, people. Okay, so the last Premier League game of the season was against Southampton. Of course, they were already relegated and we were already in second place, and it was unlikely that we were going to be touched by Man City unless they produce an avalanche of goals. So really, yeah, dead rubber. Time to ring the changes. And I was surprised, actually, that there wasn't more changes made, to be honest, from the starting lineup. I mean, as an example, Jorginho didn't start. And we know it's well publicised, and it's since he's come out on social media to say that he's leaving the club. So it would have been nice to see Jorginho have a bit of a send-off. I don't really see the need to play Thomas Partey in this game. But anyway, that's what Arteta went with. But it was great to see Kieran Tierney, strangely in the centre-back position. But, you know, he's played there before. But yeah, it was fantastic to see him on his last performance for the club and scoring a goal, no less. Absolutely buzzing for him. He's one of these players, isn't he? He's almost like been a sort of cult hero. I mean, I know that he's not been around for that long, and he's certainly of late doesn't really play. But I rarely hear an Arsenal fan say a bad word about this guy. You know, his all-round game to me is fantastic, and I think he's been underutilised by Arteta. I don't know why, for whatever reason, he favours other players, but I think he's a fantastic player. And his attitude, his professionalism, you never hear him whinge, you never hear any negativity from him. He's been a fantastic servant. So I'm sad to see him go, but it was great to see him have that send-off. And like I said, coming up with a goal as well was just amazing. And a set-up from Ben White, no less, as well, which was, again, great to see. And on that note, it was really telling, or interesting, should I say, last game of the season, and there was two elements that we'd been missing all season that was great to see. One was the assist from Ben White, the overlap, the cutback. That was kind of what he was known for, last season. And to be fair, he's just had a nightmare season with injuries, but we've so missed that. Yes, we've had backups that have been great. Timber has just been phenomenal, but Ben White going forward, I just think it's been a massive miss for us. You know, that link up with Saka down the right was fantastic. And although Saka wasn't playing in this game from the start, it was just great to see that kind of link up happen, and that cross. It was just reminiscent, as I say, of a year ago. And then the Ødegaard goal, fantastic goal. But again, this was like the Ødegaard of 2 seasons ago. I mean, it was a fantastic finish. But you're like, where the hell has that been all season long? You know, he's rarely taken the opportunity. I mean, I have said recently, over recent weeks anyway, that we have started to see a bit of a change. But, you know, it's a bit too late, to be honest. You know, we needed him from January onwards, bigger performances in the bigger games, and he just wasn't there. But, you know, as I say, that's what we've been missing, really. That kind of directness, should I say, from Ødegaard, and the driving runs down the right from Ben White. So, hopefully, going into next season, we see more of that. And yeah, we confirmed second place, which is what I wanted all along. I know we wanted to win the league, so that's a given. But for where we were, I didn't want us to finish third and fourth. So it was good that we cemented that pretty much last week. And yeah, another runners-up place. And Raya as well getting the, joint, should I say, Golden Glove with Matt Sells from Nottingham Forest. So yeah, Raya again, consistent. Yeah, he's had his dodgy moments, but he's also been phenomenal as well. What we would have expected from the last day of the season. Not really a lot else to say, to be honest, about that. So we move on to something more positive than Arsenal men, and that's Arsenal women. An absolutely fantastic, fantastic result for not only them, but for the whole club. Absolutely buzzing for them. I mean, to think of where they were, and I'm going to caveat all of this because I don't follow the women's football as much as I should. I do try and watch the games where I can. And, I've seen certainly the last few rounds of this tournament. But, looking at earlier in the season when we had Jonas Eidevall, and for whatever reason, things were just going wrong. It wasn't clicking. Performances weren't there. Results certainly weren't there. So for Renée Slegers to come in and do what she has done is just unbelievable. Massive, massive credit goes out to her. She's not only steadied the ship, but just got them playing fantastic football, some fantastic results. They're really, really playing for her. And the game, as I say, against Barca on the weekend was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, again, you could argue that the last few rounds we played Real Madrid, we played Lyon, and now Barca, and we were probably underdogs in all of them. And the way that we have played in all of those games against some of probably the top sides in Europe was just unbelievable. Some of the results, some of the play was phenomenal. And yeah, all roads led to Lisbon. And, the girls did amazing. I mean, particularly when the substitutions were made and Beth Mead came on, Blackstenius came on. She is some player. I mean, I see her come off the bench a lot of times because I guess, Russo is the number one up there. But, I mean, she's so direct, her pace. She troubles defenders. She's always getting a shot off and always coming up with goals. So for them two to link up, I was so pleased for Beth Mead, who doesn't play as much as perhaps she once did. Fantastic, fantastic assist. It really, really was for Blackstenius to just put that shot away. And the way that they held on, I mean, I've got to give the biggest shout out to Leah Williamson. What a class act she is. I mean, both on and off the pitch, she is phenomenal. And I was just so pleased for her because she was amazing in this game. For me, man of the match, she was just absolutely brilliant. The way that she not only defended, led by example, was just really, really exceptional. And I was so pleased for them. And what was great as well is to see the likes of Josh Kroenke there. Wrighty is obviously always there, massive advocate, And then I heard obviously the after party, the likes of Michael Thomas there. I think that it was just brilliant to see. And it's moments like this that I'm really, really proud to be an Arsenal supporter because, we just come together, whether it's different cultures, whether it's different genders, it doesn't matter if it's the men's team, the women's team, everybody gets behind the team, the club. And I just, I love it. I love the way that the women have been embraced by everybody and the support that they've got, whether it's through social media or, like I said, the people that were there at that game. I heard that Josh did a big speech as well after the game. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And then for them to come back to the Emirates and do that parade, again, to see the crowds that were out for them, I just thought it's just so good. And, I do wonder whether certainly other teams in this country would amass that kind of following. I just think we just lead the way, really, and we have led the way in terms of the women's game, I think. And, just absolutely phenomenal performance. So proud of them. If only the men could have done the same. I mean, could you imagine would have won the men's Champions League, the women's Champions League? It would have been phenomenal. But hey, it wasn't meant to be in that. But fair credit to the women. Fantastic, fantastic achievement. And hopefully they can win the WSL next season. And it's silly season again, people. The summer transfer window not yet officially open. But, of course, the rumour mill is going berserk. And I think Probably the main one to talk about really is the Zubimendi one. Now Sky Sports are reporting over the last few days that this has pretty much been done. We know we've talked about this since January, and I was kind of holding back because I thought, this guy's prone to changing his mind. But by all accounts, it looks like it's going to be done, progressing to a medical. I think all the paperwork's done. It's just literally getting this medical done, and I believe that this will shortly be announced. Now we're looking at 51 million, and it's funny because when I read the Sky Sports article, and they were saying, Arsenal have over 100 million to spend on transfers. Well, you can do the maths, people. So that's 51 million on a midfielder, a defensive midfielder at that. So yeah, 50 million left before obviously you've started any outgoings. But I've got to be honest, right? Unless we sell one of our assets, and when I say that, I'm talking about the likes of Gabriel, Saliba, then I don't see much that we can recoup from any of the fringe players. I'm thinking the likes of the returning loanees, right? So we got Lokonga as an example, Nelson, Fabio Vieira. Now, I don't know whether Arteta will decide to keep these players, but even if he was to sell them, you're not going to get very much for these players at all. Okay, I don't know what the contract situation is like on some of them, but, I'm just looking at ability, performances, all of that. They just haven't shown it. So you're not going to get a great deal of money for them. And yeah, you just then wonder, unless we're going to sell a massive asset, how is that 100 million going to be supplemented enough that's going to address the problems that we've all been talking about? Not only as Arsenal fans, but as the press, they reel off the names. We need a winger, we need a striker, we need creation in midfield, not potentially, we need a goalkeeper, and the list goes on. And you just think, come on, people. You don't have to be a mathematician to work out this shit is not happening. I've been here before. I've heard all the promises before. And, I will love it if I'm shut up over this one. I really, if we go out, do the business, get everybody we need, I would absolutely love it. But sorry, people, I do not believe it. Do not believe it's going to happen. We've just, in my opinion, Zubimendi is a great player, right? I'm not saying he's not a good addition to the side. But I'll harp on to the same thing that I've been saying over the last few windows, over the last few years. We need a striker. We need attacking players. We need a winger. Now, that's what we need to address. But no, we go out and buy a midfielder that arguably we do not necessarily need. I mean, would it be a disaster if we went into next season? Yes, we've lost Jorginho, but if we extend Thomas Partey's contract, we've got Rice, Ødegaard, who we know we need a bigger season from. But as a basis, that's not bad. We know we've got Nwaneri that could cover some of those roles as well. We've obviously got Marino in there. I'm not his biggest fan, but I just think that address the fucking problems, Go out and address what we actually need right now, and then I'd be okay with the likes of a Zubimendi coming in. Fantastic, yeah. But it just worries me that our focus goes on players that we're not screaming out for, let's say. And then can we afford what we actually need? And I would argue that we don't, because, I mean, I hope, like I've said in previous videos, that Gyökeres comes, but the striker talk, incidentally, has gone a bit quiet over the last few weeks. And over that time, I have to say as well, like if you watch me regularly, I'm a big Gyökeres fan. He's the one I want. But I've watched a bit more of Sesko lately, and I know that his numbers aren't certainly nowhere near as good as Victor Gyökeres. But honestly, his all-round game and ability, and I know you can only see so much on some of these videos you watch, but I've been really impressed, and I think he would actually really, really suit the team. I just worry that somebody like that comes in and, doesn't necessarily hit the ground running. They're not prolific, and, what could happen. We get frustrated, pressure builds. I just don't know whether, I just want the finished article. Somebody who can just bang in goals that you can rely on. Almost no frills, just get the fucking goals. But like I said, I think I've been impressed with what I've seen from Sesko. So I'm not wavering completely. Gyökeres is still the person I would choose, but just saying that I've watched a bit of Sesko and he looks pretty impressive. But like I said, either one of them, we're talking 60, 70, 80 mil, right? Again, we've just spent the 51 million. So where the hell is that coming from? And if that is there, I don't believe there's an awful lot more. So where's your winger? Because I'm sorry, but we still need the other reinforcements covered. If we go into next season, right, and we had Gyökeres up front and we have Zubimendi, I'm not being funny, right, but I'm not happy with that. I'm not expecting the world. I don't expect that we're going to get everything we need. I'm not completely unrealistic, but that's just not fixing a fucking problem. I'm still seeing the winger situation where you've just got effectively one winger who's world class, the rest forget about it. A lack of creativity in midfield, etc. We obviously saw Gyökeres being interviewed in the Portuguese media. I think it was after their cup win. And yeah, I mean, they asked him the question as to whether there's any truth in him coming to Arsenal. And, I think he just kind of gave the standard answer that you would expect. Non-committal. But it did sound very much like, if you listen to the words, he's definitely on the move. Absolutely no doubt about it. Whether it's to us, I hope it is. But if it's not to us, then it will be to somebody else. It clearly seems that he's going to be going this summer. In terms of the winger talk, I mean, earlier in the week, Mitoma got mentioned. Now that's an interesting one. So please let me know what you guys think. As always, get in touch. I want you to get involved in any of the content. I love the interactions and I love to hear your opinions. But yeah, Mitoma, that's a really kind of came out of left field, really, really odd one. I mean, on his day, I think he's been brilliant, Premier League proven. But I'd imagine that most Arsenal fans would feel the same as me and be a bit underwhelmed if there was a move like that. It feels a bit on the cheap. It feels like a bit of a Trossard one to me. Of course, they both came from Brighton, but again, I'm not feeling this one. As much as he's a good player, I just think, is he shed loads better than what we've already got? I'm not completely convinced by that, but I'm not convinced at all. So yeah, and then the one today, right? So Sky Sports again are talking about Sané. Now I saw him linked with Tottenham randomly the other day as well, and that was a bit of an odd one. And of course, he's been talked about pretty much since January. Inevitably, it's the links with Arteta. Ex-Man City, and I'd love to know again what you guys think of this rumour, because it's kind of hotting up right now. Out of contract, or at least it looks like Bayern Munich are not going to renew. So again, cheap option on his day, world class. Haven't seen much of him recently. I think he's 29 now, but has been injury prone in the past. I've got to say, right, where I stand on this one is I'm not convinced. If you'd have told me a few seasons back, or a January or something, when you really just need an injection of something, I'd have probably said yeah, because I think I love him as a player. In his prime, absolutely no brainer. All day long, I'd have him in the team. But I just think you're 29. We've gone down this road before with the Sterling thing, dare I say. He's done everything. Like, I don't think we're getting if we did go and get him, he's just a cheap alternative, and he's not going to be hungry because he's won everything anyway. I don't mean any disrespect, but we've been down this road before. We've seen these players come in who have got next to nothing to prove. It's literally just a payday for him. It's a last contract. And his mates Arteta. I'm just not having it, really. Again, sound like a right miserable bastard, but I'm not chuffed with these links. If we get players like this, because again, I'll just be focusing on that cheap option, cheap alternative, and best mates with Arteta. And the player's just coming for a payday contract. We've been here many times, thinking Willian, obviously Sterling, although he's just on loan. Nah, not for me. And the other strange one, and again, it's a ex-Man City link, is Julian Alvarez. This is just, I don't know if there's any truth to be thinking that Atletico Madrid would want to get rid of him. I've not heard he's unhappy. He hasn't long been there. Whether it's the Berta thing, because of course, he would have been instrumental in getting him over there in the first place. Don't get me wrong, I think he's a great player. I would have loved to have got him when he was leaving Man City, because there was some talk then. But that's a strange one. Honestly, I can't see that happening. And if you're talking him leaving at his age, surely he's going to cost more than the likes of Gyökeres or Sesko. So I just can't see that happening. You're probably talking about 100 million around that anyway for him. So I'd love it, but not for me. And I just don't see that happening at all. But we will see what happens, people, over the coming weeks. Stay tuned. I'll be bringing out some pretty much at least weekly content, but it'll probably be more so every other day in terms of rounding up the transfer news. So please stay tuned for that. It's great to have you on board. Please, if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or any other platforms, then please hop over to my YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. This channel is all about people like you and me, people who aren't necessarily going to every match, who don't live in London, but are passionate as anything about our football club. And we have just as much of an opinion as everybody else. So this is the platform for you. So make sure you're hopping over there, subscribing, as I say, hitting that notification bell, making sure you're notified and all the content coming up. And as always, please make sure you like the video as well. Great to have you on board. I'll see you next week for the next episode of Cannon Talk. And like I said, stay tuned this week where I'll be bringing you content around all of the rumours of the upcoming impending transfers. And obviously, if any news drops about any signings, of course, I'll put a video out about that as well. Great to have you here. See you next time.